Father Miller here. Welcome back to the Nerd Father. It looks like I'm flying solo tonight. Father Sinatra wasn't able to make it. And again, as I had been saying, as we're getting back into the routine of things, my brother priests are quite busy. Anyway, I just wanted to kind of go live for a little bit tonight. I don't know if I'm going to go long. It depends if we have people joining us. But we did get some good news about, maybe an hour ago, coming from the Daily Mirror in England. Apparently, Jodie Whittaker's time as the Doctor has come to an end. Now, as you probably know, I am a huge Doctor Who fan. I grew up watching Doctor Who. Friday nights in Iowa was sci-fi night on PBS. And it was one of those things as a kid in the 80s you didn't exactly admit to because you probably get beaten up or mocked or made fun of. So I loved Doctor Who. And the thing that was nice about it was they used to air the whole episode. So if you have like BritBox or the DVDs of the TV show, usually they break it up into the individual episodes, which would air over the course of a few months. Iowa PBS used to broadcast the entire episode, the whole story arc in one night. So I went through, honestly, it's been probably 40 years. I can't remember. No, not 40 years. It's probably been at least 30 plus years since I first was introduced to the Doctor. So I really can't remember who my first Doctor was. But I can say that I was beyond thrilled to death in 99, I think it was, when the Doctor Who movie came out on Fox. Originally, it was going to be Paul McGann as the Eighth Doctor. And you got to admit, he kind of had a goofy outfit, poofy hair, and weird purple cloak. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the movie, but it didn't catch on. Probably looking back, it's probably a good thing it didn't. For those that watched the Night of the Doctor, which aired right before the 50th anniversary, almost 10 years ago now, Paul McGann came back in a short little movie, about maybe 10, 15 minutes worth, as the Eighth Doctor, regenerating into John Hurt's Doctor, the War Doctor. And it was brilliant because this was the first time that McGann's been on the film almost in 20 years. Well, no, it would have been at the time. The 50th was in 2013. And the reason that I remember that is it was the anniversary of JFK's assassination when Doctor Who premiered. So it would have been 2013. And so almost 15 years since the Fox movie, and McGann had aged and he looked good. I'm still hoping that McGann will come back. So it was in 2005 that Doctor Who came back to the BBC. And I remember at the time being thrilled to death. I knew nothing of the new guy that was going to be the new Doctor. But I remember, because it was new, since the show was new and they didn't know if they were going to have the audience, it was going to air in America like 6 months after it aired in Britain. And I think that lasted maybe a year or two. And then they started airing pretty much back to back, both in England and America. But the first season really caught on. And I got to say, I was kind of heartbroken when Eccleston decided he wasn't going to come back. But it turned out to be a blessing because, let's be honest, David Tennant's probably my second favorite Doctor after Tom Baker. And that's when it kind of became cool to be a Whovian, because they started doing all the toys, and a lot of the kids that were in school that I was teaching at admitted to watching it, and it was fun. Tennant was there for maybe 3-4 years. I don't remember. And then Matt Smith came after him, and Matt was goofy. He'd probably be my third Doctor, I would say. The one that I was really looking forward to was Peter Capaldi, because I was at first introduced to him before he became the Doctor in the show The Thick of It. And it's a British show, British comedy. Think of The Office, but taking place within an office of the British government. And it's not exactly PG friendly, not even PG-13 friendly. But the thing that was fun about Capaldi was he was a big fan of Doctor Who, and he was a fan since his childhood. The only problem was he got horrible stories. I ended up getting moved 2017, I think it was. And my last parish, I had BBC America, and it was Clara's last season. So I didn't get to see the entire season with Bill as Capaldi's final companion. And outside of her character, I didn't care for her. I didn't think she was a good companion. That's probably be controversial. So Capaldi was there for a short period of time, and then we got the abomination that is Jodie Whittaker, as Gary Beekler likes to refer to as Dr. Karen. He has longer term that I can't refer to because I can't remember it all, but it's brilliant. I gotta say that's when my enthusiasm really died. It started during Capaldi's last season. I saw a few of the episodes, and again, speaking as a Whovian, I remember when they were trying to decide who Smith's replacement was going to be, they were kind of pushing that they wanted a woman doctor. So, I mean, there was the talk before Capaldi became the doctor that they might have a woman doctor. Well, we didn't get it. We got Misty, the master. And honestly, I liked her. But what happened was they started to introduce the social justice warrior garbage. If you remember the Hellbent, I think it was, where the doctor goes back to Gallifrey and he becomes the president and he ends up shooting a general who regenerates into a woman and then basically saying, how can you handle with all that testosterone? My God, the ego, I believe it was. So it was garbage. Anyway, so Jodie came in. I watched maybe part of the first episode of her run. I just remember the promo ad where they showed her falling from the sky, crashing through a glass ceiling, going, oops. And I started watching it again last season, partway through last season, and it's just not fun anymore. It's become a big political agenda. It's not fun. And as some of us are thinking they're going to be pushing the Yaz doctor relationship, trying to make a lesbian relationship, which I really hope and pray they don't do. The doctor's never been about sex. I mean, he did flirt with some of his companions. There's been chemistry between the companions. I'm thinking Amy and Smith's doctor. But let's not go down that road. Anyway, so according to the Mirror, and I'll get to comments in a little bit. Let me see. So Jodie is deciding she's going to leave next season, after the next series, as they call the run in Britain, which airs in the UK in autumn this fall. Yay. I just really did not like this series. I mean, okay, she's wearing a bow tie. It just seemed like she's been trying to channel her inner Tennant and Smith. And I really hate the idea of the fam. I think there's been companions that have been a lot more closer that has greatly affected the Doctor than the fam. Again, I'm thinking the Daleks in New York when the pawns get sent back in time by the Weeping Angel, and just to see the agony on the Doctor's face. Now, I did waste about an hour of my life on Friday, I believe it was, for the New Year's special. And Graham and Ryan, I think it is, left. There wasn't any agony or tears. I don't know. Anyway, and Yaz, I could really care less about her. They did a whole mental health episode last season, and it took place around the 1300s. And I remember they actually used the term mental health. I don't think that was even considered back then. So, other doctors that left after 3 runs, William Hartnell. Well, William Hartnell became sick. That's the reason he left after that. Patrick Troughton, the 2nd Doctor, love him. Peter Davidson, the 5th Doctor. Sylvester McCoy, the 7th Doctor, but he kind of got forced out. He got some really crappy stories. Matt Smith and Peter Capaldi. So, yeah. And the scary thing that I was reading on here is, I think, okay, so some of the possible candidates for the next Doctor, I will be honest and say I don't know these two. That doesn't matter. But the one that really scares me is Phoebe Waller-Bridge, because if I remember correctly, she was brought on to Die Another Day, the new Bond movie that's coming up, to kind of put in some wokeness into it. And heaven help us if she becomes the new bishop or the new doctor. So anyway, that is some good news. I guess it's maybe 3 years too late for my sake. So let's see who we have here tonight. We already got a few comments. Mountain of Elysium. I hope I got that. Ave Maria. Ave Maria indeed. Evan is here. Good to see you. Chris P. Evan, Exodus 90. I'm not familiar with that. I mean, I know it's a scriptural verse. I don't have that one memorized, so I don't know. I'm guessing that's a program. Tom Baker. So on Twitter last night, I posted a clip from Blackadder. Tom Baker was in the third series of Blackadder, where Blackadder is Rowan Atkinson, who probably is known best over here for Mr. Bean, but he plays the same type of character in 4 different time periods and 4 different series, and this was during the time of Queen Elizabeth, I believe it was. Anyway, Rosie's here. Good to see you. McGann's my favorite Doctor. I've not listened to any of his Big Fish stuff. I mean, I've downloaded one of the stories. I haven't listened to it, but I think he could still have a good potential. I hope he comes back. So, yeah, it was just odd. The problem with the movie was they basically tried to retcon some of the Doctor's history by saying that he was half human on his mother's side. And honestly, that was the first time in Doctor Who canon that he actually had a kiss on screen. And that was with the Doctor the Doctor who was a doctor that's his companion. So I watched Night of the Doctor recently again. It's just such a good short episode, and it really shows what could be. And it's still not too late. I don't know if anybody who's seen this is going to be more of the nerd aspect tonight, but the 5 Doctorish, I believe it was produced about the time of the 50th anniversary again, and it focused on the last few Doctors, McCoy, Davidson, and McGann, and Colin Baker, how they were trying to worm their way into the 50th anniversary special, and it's worth it. Totally worth it. It was John Barrowman was in it, and it was a better appearance for him than in Revolution of the Daleks. So I watched Gary's review of the Jodie episodes. Gary just released a new review of the Revolution of the Daleks. We were supposed to have a member stream tonight, but when the news dropped that Jodie's leaving, he kind of had to cancel, so we're going to be doing that tomorrow. And yeah, Rosie, you're right. You're right. I can't remember. It's at the end. Oh, season 3, I think it was, where Tennant's hand that was lopped off at the beginning of his run that regenerated because he was still going through the regeneration process, eventually grew into another him, but it wasn't a full Gallifreyan. And again, the whole timeless children thing is garbage. The idea that the Doctor's not Gallifreyan is garbage. But yeah, it was handled tastefully. I mean, again, you had the chemistry between the Doctor and the Rose at the time, but it's not kind of being forced like I think it is with Yaz and the Doctor now. So let's see. I don't think anybody else is joining me tonight, Evan, partially because Father Sinatra had to back out. He had something that came up, and I decided I wanted to go live anyway just because I had this set up. So I really don't know if it's going to be a very long stream. I'm going to try to probably go maybe another 15 minutes or so. We'll see. I'm still new to streaming live by myself, so it's weird. I mean, I've been doing this now since March. It's hard to believe it's been about a year. But it's been fun. And like I said, when we began doing the Sunday night, the Priest Council originally, and we were able to have the 6 guys on here, it was mostly really therapy for us because we were kind of homebound. And to be able to talk to brother priests, to be able to have that priestly fraternity online, and to be able to answer any questions you might have. So it was good. But I'm hoping to get some more guys on again soon. So yeah, she really does. I mean, if you watch any of her stuff, she really is trying to channel the inner goofiness of Matt Smith. And the companions were better. Romana, I remember a little bit of her. I know Leela, Rose, Donna. I liked Perry. Perry was my actually Sarah Jane would have been my first companion probably that I remember, and I always remembered K9 as a kid. But the newer companions, I gotta say, Donna really grew on me. I really wasn't thrilled when she was first picked. But she really did a good job for the one season that she was on there. So I hope we get to see her again, although I don't know if we will or not. And yeah, Sarah Jane. Can't forget Sarah Jane, and God rest her soul. So, okay, yes, I think I remember that now. That's the guy that ends up going bad. Oh, yeah. Serenity. Wasn't he in the final episode of Serenity as well? I gotta watch that. I bought the Blu-ray of Firefly not too long ago. My camera's going out of focus. Let's see. Okay, there we go. So I don't know why it's doing that. But yeah, Serenity was such an awesome show. I got introduced to that when I was in the seminary. I remember I was working on my MA thesis and preparing for my comps. And we would take a study break every night just to watch an episode of it to kind of relax and just to unwind. No pressure. It's only you have to throw a 60+ page paper together in a few months and pass comprehensive exams. So I passed. I mean, I got ordained, so I'm grateful for that. Rajesh is here. Good to see you. Let's see. Tom Baker was in a horror movie. Yes, I've seen The Vault of Horror. Great movie. So messed up. It's like Tales from the Crypt. It's available on YouTube. And I think it was right before he became the Doctor. But yeah, it was really good. If I remember, Joan Collins was in that too. But that might be another one. There's another one where John Petrie is in it too. A similar type of story of, I think The House That Dripped Blood was called. And it's, again, like 5 different horror stories, and John Petrie was in it. So The Five Doctors, it's been so long since I've seen that. So, yeah, Joe, again, it's hard. It's hard to be able to get the guys on. We did a live stream yesterday with other people besides priests. So part of the Fandom Menace, the Nerdrotic community that I'm a part of, we did a stream yesterday with Bounding into Comics, Lady Gravemaster, Miss Martin Muses, Father Sinatra was on, and Father Galfont joined from the Diocese of Brooklyn. So it was a really fun stream. We went about 2 hours, and it's available on my channel still. So, yeah, thank you again. Like I said, I'm going to be doing that. And Evan reminds me I need to buy chalk. Candlebit or Christ. Oh, that's this weekend. Darn it. Okay, I forgot to put the chalk out this year. That's okay. We can do the Epiphany, or we can do the house blessing anytime. So I'll just put that in next weekend's bulletin. Okay, I thought he was in the final episode of Serenity or Firefly. So Mark is here. Good to see you, Mark. So the other thing I was going to mention, last Sunday, I also watched Wonder Woman 84, which was another mistake. Again, you would think with the time, nerd father, I'm a nerd, I'm a priest. That's why I called it the Nerd Father. So I love comic books. I remember my first comic book Oh, there it is. Okay. Thank you, Dead Punk. Joan Collins was in Tales from the Crypt in 72. John Petrie was in The House That Dripped Blood. And yeah, I remember he turned into the vampire. Great. Both of them are great movies. They're corny movies. And, they're horror movies, but they're not horror where you're going to see the flesh drip off of somebody or you're not going to have nightmares because of it. But they're just such great movies. But yeah, my first comic I remember buying was back in 91, I think it was, right about the time Superman died. And I remember getting the second printing of The Death of Superman. My parents ended up buying me the paperback edition of the run of comics leading up to The Death of Superman. So like how they will bound a few issues into a paperback. So the one that I was subscribing to for a while was Howard the Duck Meets Deadpool, and it was a five issue run. It was a short run issue, so I have the individual issues, but then they print it all into one paperback. So if you don't want to buy the individual comics, you can buy the paperbacks. So, but yeah, Wonder Woman 84 was horrible. It's not the worst superhero film I've seen. I've been saying, I think probably one of the worst would be Superman v. Batman or 1984's Supergirl. And as I said to somebody, I actually liked Helen Slater as a kid. I remember her in a few movies as a kid. But bad story. Bad. It had Peter O'Toole. It had Faye Dunaway. It also had Helen Slater and a few others. You would think with a cast like that, it would be good. They brought back the actor who originally played Jimmy Olsen in the other two Superman movies. He comes back to it. It's just not that good of a movie. It hasn't aged well. So, but this is an article that's coming from the New York Post from John Podesta. Mispronounced it, but one last disaster in 2020, Wonder Woman 1984. And, you've seen the ads. I'm sure you've seen the ads. It begins with this great race in the Olympics, and I just do not like the young Diana. I mean, she just comes off cocky, and I just don't know how to say it. It's like she's competing against all these probably women in their 20s. She's like 9. She actually is leading the race till she falls off her horse. She takes a shortcut and she's able to catch up. She's leading at the end, but her mom, I think it was, or somebody prevents her because she cheated, and she just throws this tantrum and everything. But the movie was just horrible. I read somewhere that it made Cats look wonderful. With Kristen Wiig, her character of Cheetah is horrible. I mean, I would rather look at Rebel Wilson in the cat outfit that she had, because it looks more like a cat than Kristen Wiig does. So, and the original Wonder Woman was a good movie. I have it on Blu-ray. I probably will watch it again soon. But this thing was just garbage. And as it says here, how have to stink up the joint like no comic movie since Howard the Duck in 86. I will say that Howard the Duck, horrible too. I do love the Howard the Duck they've been portraying in the MCU, but that Howard the Duck in 86. But it had Leah Thompson in it, so that was a saving grace. I want to say, I can't remember. Tim Robinson was in it too. So, but yeah, part of the thing is I'm not going to go into it in a whole lot of detail, but the guy that Pablo, who is in the Mandalorian, does a great job in the Mandalorian. This movie, I don't think he's that good. He gets to see the president. Well, the president in 84 is Ronald Reagan. You kind of get the idea that he is trying to play a Reagan, but he just comes off horrible. And the point is that this guy has the ability to grant any wish, and the Reagan wannabe wishes for more nukes. One of let me see if I can bring this up. One of the books I read a few years ago that I really, really highly recommend. Let me see. I'm bringing up Amazon right now. Here we go. We will take a look at this. Let me stop that. Pedro Pascal. Thank you, Rosie. Okay, let me see. Going to Amazon. So this is a book from 2 years ago, 3 years ago. A Pope and a President, John Paul II, Ronald Reagan, and the Extraordinary Untold Story of the 20th Century. I can't highly recommend this book. I mean, this book is just so awesome. When I taught church history, and one of the things that I would show the kids every year, the first few years, I showed them the DVD that Newt Gingrich did. I believe it was 9 Days in September, basically focusing on the trip of John Paul II in 1979, going back to Poland, and really how it gives rise to solidarity. Lech Walesa gets inspired, and really it's the thing that kind of sets the fuse off that's going to blow up communism. Because from solidarity, you remember Poland's still a very Catholic country at the time, and Poland would be the first of the communist countries to fall. And it has to do because of John Paul II. It had to do because of Lech Walesa, of course, Our Lady. John Paul consecrated Russia to her Immaculate Heart in 1982. 82 or 83, I can't remember. John Paul was shot in May 13, 1981, which was the Feast of Our Lady of Fatima. He attributed his survival to her intercession. In 82, he went back to Fatima to thank her for saving his life. He put the bullet that shot him in the crown of the statue of Our Lady. So if you go to Fatima, you can see the bullet that almost killed him. It was around that time that he consecrated Russia to the Immaculate Heart of Mary, like Our Lady asked in 1917 when she appeared to the three kids. And that's about the time things started to roll. I remember as a kid, you had 3 Soviet premiers within a short period of time. The last one was Gorbachev. And that's when, Gorbachev was a godsend. So, March 84. Thank you, Joseph. So, it's kind of hard when I'm looking at one screen and I can't see the comments at this too. The other movie I was going to say is what Rosie's mentioning here, Liberating the Continent, which is about, and it's narrated by Jim Caviezel, who was Jesus and the Passion of the Christ. Caviezel's a really devout Catholic, and it really shows, it does a better job of showing how John Paul II's pontificate affected the whole continent of Europe. Because again, I was probably 14. I was 14 in 88. So I think the wall came down in 89. I remember it was a great day. It's hard to believe that the wall's been down longer now than it was up. But I just remember it was Poland, then all these other countries that started to become free. And I remember it was the last one was Romania, because they took out, I can't even pronounce his name. I'm not even going to try. They took out the leader and shot him. So, but yeah, Pope and the President, DVDs, Liberating Continent, 7 days in September, I think it is. It's Newt and Callista Gingrich. I prefer Liberating the Continent over the Gingrich documentary. So, but I think that's about all I got. Like I said, I was going to do a short little chat tonight. I'm going to probably pop over to watch Gary and Doomcock on their Inquisition. Basically, for those that aren't part of the Fandom Menace, part of the nerd community, Gary and Doomcock will roast pop culture. And I'm sure that Doctor Who news is going to be big, because it's the first time that they've been able to stream since the new episode aired. Let's see. The Wall went down on November 11th. I remember as a kid that Barks root beer, I don't know if it's still around, was giving away communist items, artifacts. Never got one. Would I say John Paul II is the most influential pope of all time? I would say of the most recent popes. Of all time, I don't know, because I mean, you could say, I mean, Peter. You look at like John or Saint Gregory the Great. Um, you could say Pope Pius V, who was kind of overseeing the Council of Trent, which dealt with the Protestant Reformation. So, I mean, John Paul II was definitely the Pope we needed at the time we had him, and so blessed to have had him. He was the Pope for the majority of my life. I was born in 74, so I don't remember 78 very well, which was the year of three popes. So in August or July of 78, Paul VI died. He had been Pope since John the 23rd died in 63. And John Paul I, Alberto Luciani, took the name John Paul to honor both John the 23rd and Paul VI. But again, he lasted only less than a month. And then Karol Wojtyła became the Pope. John Paul II, 27 years. So, okay. Barks is still around. So I really don't drink pop anymore. In our part of the country, we call it pop. So anyway, I think that's all I got for tonight. I'm going to try to go live again next Sunday, hopefully with Priest, hopefully not. Let's see, one last comment. Yes. Okay, so maybe I got it wrong. I kind of got it right. I mean, I got the Luciano Albini. Let's do a quick look. Oh, keyboard. Oops. Automatically assumes I'm putting in John Paul I. Let's see. You might hear my little kitty in the background. Albino Luciani. So you are correct. So anyway, I can imagine. I can imagine. So thanks again, Joe. Rosie, thank you. Eastland, M Tax Shark, love the name. Dead Punk. Is that kind of a Deadpool in the background, or is that supposed to be Spider-Man? Anyway, so again, just make sure you hit the like button, hit the ring bell so you can be notified when new videos come out. And we got last one, bad jokes, as we did not elect a pope, we elected a pope. I got to see John Paul II's grave or tomb when I went to Rome 3 years ago, and I wanted to say mass there, but I didn't get to. But I did get to say mass at the tomb of St. Peter, or the altar that's right next to the bones of Peter. So that was amazing. So, but thanks again, everybody, for joining. Until next week, God bless.